Welcome to the info session about FTL templates. And here's the content for today. So I will first talk briefly about load templates in ADE in general, then look in more detail into FTL templates, what they are and why would you use them. And then ADE has this built-in FTL model and templates and functions and macros that you can use out of the box. So we'll have a look into those, and then I will demonstrate how it all works, and then we can look at the available use case examples that we have in the documentation already created during this summer. So load templates in ADE. Well, the idea is that you can create load templates to have like a standardized reusable logic for loads. So what the load templates can contain are SQL load steps and then load options. And ADE has a lot of variables that you can reference in the templates to make them more dynamic, suitable for different entities and cases. And then also FTL templates. So FTL templates are sort of an extension to the already existing load templates. So the idea with load templates is that you handle repeating patterns consistently, and that's then reducing the manual effort made by individual developers. Then the end result will also be more consistent and less prone for errors and so on. So how the load templates currently work, you can save existing loads as templates, and then you can import the load logic from a template into a load. Or you can set a template as a default for a specific entity type. So then all the loads of the certain entity type work using that template. That's something we call the generated on deploy, and that's also a pretty new feature. And templates are managed in the config load templates package. So all in all, this load templates feature is an important part of the ADE's standardization and automation value propositions. So here's a screenshot of the config load templates package. Probably looks familiar to those who use ADE. So there is now this new user interface for that, the new UI. So here you can see all the load templates that you have created or saved from existing loads. Then you can map them to entity types on this other tab. And then there's a new tab now for these FTL templates as well. So they are managed all in this same configuration package. And then getting on to the actual FTL templates. So like I said, it comes from FreeMarker template language, and Apache FreeMarker is a Java-based template engine for generating text output, which in our case is mainly SQL. But there are examples of other things. For example, Marco was generating some kind of HTML documentation with FTL. But yeah, for us, it's mainly load logic with SQL. So this FTL has been, or FreeMarker syntax has been used previously already in ADE load transformations. So if you have customized those, that happens in config load transformations and uses the same FreeMarker syntax language. So the general idea why there is a need for this FTL templates is that this allows for more advanced and dynamic logic than the regular SQL override steps with variables. So you can use parameters and variables within the FTL templates. You can do conditional logic, looping. Then you can reference the entity and load context with the FTL model. So that means that when you use the template in some entity, then the template can reference certain things from the entity object. So attribute names and load options and source and target entity and so on. All kinds of details related to those. Then you can also reference other templates within a template, and then functions and macros. Those are either built in or custom. So like I mentioned, they are something that comes out of the box, and then you can develop your own stuff as well. And like I said, everything is managed in config load templates. And then when you have an FTL template, you reference it in a load step, and then that load will use the template. And FTL templates are always generated on deploy. So I mentioned this generated on deploy option for the load templates. So this just means that the template is sort of centrally managed within the config package. And if you make a change to the template and then deploy the config load templates and then all the entity packages which are using the template, then the template or the load logic will be updated like that. You don't need to go into each load and change it there, like with the traditional templates when you're not using the generated on deploy. Then, so when would you use them and why? So when you have some repeating load pattern or logic that requires more customization that is possible with the regular load options and variables. For example, we've seen in our POCs and customer cases that there are various types of dimensions. For example, the SCD2 such requirements that are kind of customer specific, how we have decided to do those things. So FTL templates would be built for those use cases and customized for the exact need. Then other thing is business vault entities. AD doesn't have automation, for example, for bit tables and things like that. There are some examples in our documentation, but we could create some kind of template for that. And the FTL template does not need to handle the whole load logic. It could, for example, handle only the generic steps of a load so that you are mixing sort of manually written SQL and then doing parts with the FTL template. Then it doesn't even have to be like a complete load at all. You can create various kinds of helper templates. For example, something that produces a starting point for manual SQL development. I have an example of that I'll show you later. Or for other use cases, like I mentioned, Marco did some test with the FTL generated HTML documentation. So since you have the template model that you can reference, you can pretty much generate anything out of that with FTL. And the nice thing is that now the product team no longer has to develop all kinds of different load options and variables for every possible scenario. The customers can then develop this stuff themselves, and then also, of course, share these templates in the community if they choose to do so. The nice thing is that the syntax is such that ChatGPT seems to generate very good FTL. So I myself don't really know how to write FTL language at the moment. Everything that I've done is pretty much that GPT generated and then minor improvements done myself. So yeah, then the built-in model. So like I mentioned, you can reference this in the templates. The template is used in the context of a load. So you can reference the source entities mapped in the load, target entity, entity details, entity attributes, keys, references, even package details, everything that you might need that is related to the load and the entity. And then there are these built-in templates, functions, and macros. So these are all documented in our documentation. So basically, for example, some of the functions might be for looking up some values or like source entity or something like that, just made easier with these functions. And then the macros often just generate some kind of SQL statements or like logic snippets that are part of the templated load steps. So for example, where clauses, where was this generate where clause? It was somewhere here, but something like that. But let's have a look in practice. Maybe it makes more sense. Going into config load templates, and then under load templates, you have this. I took this screenshot from. So here you have load FTL templates. And in our demo environment, we have something here already if you want to have a look. And then using this code button, you get to this development view. And this is quite nice. This is a new thing that came with the FTL templates, that you can kind of develop your template here and then preview the result all the time on the right side. And you choose the entity and the load for which you are testing this template. So this template gets the context from these selections here. So, and you can also choose the target database product and environment and schedule. So if you have environment variables or schedule variables, those will also be used then. So what I'm doing here is just a simple variable value assignment. So I'm creating a variable target entity, and then I'm using the FTL model to get the target entity for this load. So this LT marine position entity. And then I'm printing the variable value. So this one is actually, this target entity is an object, and then I'm getting the like the schema name and entity name like this. Okay, so then we have functions. How you call a function. This is also a built-in function, so I'm getting this get attribute for type, assigning that to the target run ID variable. So I'm giving it a list of attributes and then the type of the attribute. And then it gives me the target attribute, and now you can see that it's sort of an object what this gets. So then I can, for example, get the ID of that attribute like this. Then macros, how you call them. So generate, the macro is built in, it's called generate entity attribute list. So again, giving it the attribute list as parameter, then you can give some prefix and indentation. You get the attribute list like this. And again, these are coming from this entity and this load that has been defined. So I could then change this, for example, to test, and indentation could be one. And you can sort of see where this goes. So then I could have select here and then from, and what was it, this? So you can sort of start building your load logic this way with the FTL. Then there's conditional logic. So if else kind of statements. So these work like in any programming language. Now I'm testing the entity type. So if it's a hub, it will do something. If it's satellite, doing something else. And then if it's something not hub or satellite, then, well, this one is a link. So you'll get that sort of output. So then you can prepare for your template for different scenarios and make it more generic, reusable for different kinds of things. You can also set parameters for the template so that you then, when you use the template, you assign those parameter values and then it will do something according to those selections. Then there was one more example here. You can do all kinds of stuff. So here I'm assigning some kind of a sequence here. So the goal for this is to get a filtered list of attributes. So I want to exclude these attribute types. So I'm creating this sequence out of them. And then I'm filtering the target entity attribute list with that sequence here, assigning that into this attributes filtered variable. And then this is a loop. I'm looping through that list and printing those attribute names. So the end result would be like this. So it's taking all the attributes from the target entity and then filtering those. All right. Then I can show some real life thing that we've done. This dynamic select. I'll pick another entity. So this is a sort of helper template. This marine vessel dimension has multiple mapped source entities. I could maybe show that to here we have plenty of those. I guess this is the one. So you have multiple source entities mapped here. And what I want to do is to just generate a sort of select a statement which I could start with when I start developing the load for this entity. So the idea is that when you like create some publish layer entity on top of Data Vault, you always have to join a lot of tables together. So I would just want some starting point for that, so I don't need to write all the attributes and all the entity joins and everything. I would just get that automatically. So this one is then getting all the attributes of the different entities we have, printing them out with their descriptions and assigning like these aliases for the source entities, T1, T2, and so on. And then it's listing all these joins here. So it's picking the first entity mapped in that load. Or was it here? And then joining all of these entities to it. And it is these join conditions are not always that straightforward because we are sometimes skipping hubs and so on, just joining directly satellites to links and things like that. So this doesn't work perfectly, but then it's also suggesting join conditions based on the references that exist in those entities. So the link is referencing hubs, and hubs satellites are referencing hubs. So then it can use that metadata as well to just suggest these join conditions here. Okay. So then we are running out of time, but I will show you one more example. So this slowly changing dimension that I have been mentioning about. So this one is a multi-step load. And like I said, it is partially sort of manually written SQL. So there is this temporary table that it will create where all of this logic, business logic, is manually written. So it will sort of store the latest data in a temporary table using this manually written logic. And then this merge statement, how it will merge that new current situation into the existing target entity. That part is then using an FTL template. And this is how you reference those FTL templates in your load steps. So name of the template, and then if the template has any parameters, you assign the values here. And then when we look at the generated load, this is how it works. So first it drops the temporary table if it exists, then loads it with the latest data using the manually written logic. And then the FTL template comes in to do this generic merge logic where it inserts the new values, updates existing ones, gives the or updates the timestamps, the valid from and valid to timestamps of the rows in the table. This one is documented like all the existing examples we have in our documentation, so you can have a look here in more detail what it does. So there's also a short explanation what slowly changing dimension type 2, what they are, and so on. And then there are also other examples, basically those that we went through here about the basic usage of FTL. Then this sensitive data vault example is also something that we have something out of this, and I've been working on the documentation, so it should be pretty extensive